Hello everyone, welcome to Magimix Cookalong. My name is Christine Bailey, I'm a nutritionist and a chef, and I also love using my Cook Expert. And today it's the start of the new year. Maybe you're thinking about increasing the number of plant-based meals in your family's diet. Maybe you're trying veganuary. Whatever, I have got a really good recipe to show you. It's my pulled jackfruit, and I'm going to be serving it with some delicious flatbreads. And we're going to make everything in the Cook Expert. And I will give you all the ingredients as we go along, all the instructions. Just a reminder for those who are watching on the Facebook page, you will have the ingredients on the Facebook page, but I will talk you through everything. And I'll just mention a few substitutions as well if you've got any particular allergy or dietary requirements. But what I like about this recipe is that you could double it. This will feed 4, but you could actually double this recipe. The Cook Expert, the metal bowl is very large. And what's nice about it is that, say for example, you either wanted to make it for another day this week, or you wanted to get ahead and freeze it, this is ideal for you. So we're going to get started. We're going to use the metal bowl to start with. Remember, when you buy the Cook Expert, you get the metal bowl, which is what we are going to cook this in. This is an induction, so it will heat up. And we can talk about the temperatures and so on, but also you get the food processor. And the food processor is very, very flexible in terms of how you can use it, in terms of grating, shredding, mixing, blending. So I'm going to use both parts, and that's what's so great about the Cook Expert, is it can do everything. All it can't do is if you were wanting to grill something or griddle something. The rest of it, it can all do in here. So, first thing I'm going to show you is how to do the pulled jackfruit. Now, what's also very good about using something like the metal bowl is that we don't need to do much chopping, because this is going to do it all for us. And so the base of the recipe is an onion. So I'm going to put 1 onion in there. I've just halved that because this is going to chop it up for us. I've then got here as well a stalk, just 1 celery stalk. Now again, if you're thinking about food waste, maybe you've got the odd carrot in the back of your fridge or half red pepper, put it in as well. So although I'm only using the onion and the celery, I will often, if I find bits and pieces in the back of my fridge, I'm going to put those in as well. And that's what's so great about using the Cook Expert. You can use your leftovers, you're going to prevent all that food waste. Now here I've actually got 4 small garlic cloves. I would say if you've got large garlic cloves, just use 2 or 3. Whole, you don't have to chop those up because those are going in as well. And that's really going to be the base for the flavour. So this is a really simple recipe that you can make well ahead and just then reheat it when you're ready to eat. So we're going to use the expert mode. So remember, with the Cook Expert, you've got 13 set programs, but you have the expert mode, which means you have total control. So I can vary the speed, I can vary the temperature, and it's going to chop it up for me. So with this, what I want to do is I'm using the expert mode, but what I want to do is I'm actually going to put the speed up because I want this to chop for me. So all you do is you just change your arrows, and I'm going to take this up to speed 13. Now it's only going to need about 20-30 seconds. So I'm just going to press auto, and it's going to chop it up for me. And I just want this to be very, very fine. And so you can see in the glass bowl when it's done to your liking, and it's all chopped up ready. Now if you want other controls, you can just pulse it as well, like so, and you can chop it like that. But I like the speed 13, it chops it nice and finely. You can see through the glass bowl when it's ready for you. So now we're going to add all the other ingredients as well. You get your spatula. So what I would say is once you've chopped something up, just use your spatula, push everything down to the center where the blade is so that you're ready to do the cooking. So the next bit, I want to saute. So just like you would be perhaps stirring over a hob, this is going to saute the vegetables for me. So all I'm going to do is just add just a little bit of olive oil, and then we're going to put this back on. And this time, I want it to actually stir for me, but I want it to saute. So here's a good trick. Take the lid off, and that way, as it heats up, we're going to get some steam coming out. So it's going to saute just like you would when you're standing over a pan. So this time, I want to actually take the speed right down. So the speed 3 will mean it will stir and cut for me constantly. 1A and 2A means that it will alternately stir. So it will stir for a bit, and then it will stop and stir for a bit. But I just want it to continuously stir as I want to take the temperature up. So now this is where the expert mode really comes into its own, because I can just vary the temperature. And I just want it just below 100. So I'm doing it at 95 degrees C, speed 3, and we'll cook that for, we probably only, to be honest with you, need it for a couple of minutes. So again, you can change your timing as well. You just use your arrows and you can take the time up. Okay, so press auto, and it's now going to stir for me, but it's also heating as well. Because it's induction, it will heat up very, very quickly. But what's also nice is that if I wanted to just do a very gentle simmer, say I was cooking a soup or a stew, I could just take the heat down a bit. So again, you have total control. Now, as it's doing that, let me just talk you through the rest of the ingredients, because not everyone has actually used jackfruit. Jackfruit is actually a very good source of protein and fibre for vegans. It's now readily available in all the supermarkets. You'll find it canned, normally in water. So all you need to do is just strain it and give it a rinse. And I'll show you what it looks like. So I've actually got here 2 cans fulls because I want it to feed 4 people. And you can see the reason we often call it pulled is because it actually is quite stringy. So when you tear it apart, you almost get these little strings. And what's nice about this recipe is I'm going to serve it in a bowl with some flatbread. But what you could do is use this as, say, a filling for, say, jacket potatoes, or even use it to fill a taco, for example. So it's very, very versatile. And a bit like tofu, which is also another staple in vegan diets, which is soya bean, it's quite bland on its own. So what we're going to be doing is adding some spices to this as well. So you can see the steam is coming right up now. And then what we're going to do is, once that has sauteed for me, I'm going to add some spices, and I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients as well. So let me just stop that. That's plenty. You can see the steam is coming up. You could, at that stage, add the spices when you're doing the celery and the onion. So if you wanted to, you could add the spices then. I can smell the garlic. It's unbelievably good. So let me talk you through my spices. So, and it's partly because this is reasonably bland on its own, you want to add additional flavour. So what I've got here is a teaspoon of smoked paprika. The smokiness really makes this dish. I've also got a teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin, a little bit of onion salt, or you could use onion powder. Again, all of these are available in the supermarket, about half a teaspoon. If you're not using the salt, then add a little bit of garlic salt or ordinary salt. And then if you like it a little bit spicy, add a pinch of chilli powder or flakes. Now you could, if you had a red chilli at home, you could have added a red chilli to the celery onion base as well. So again, you know, use up what you've got. Often people will find they buy whole packets of these things and then they only need one and they don't know what to do with the rest. So you could have used that then. So the spices are going in. Now, here's another thing that we often use in vegan recipes, and this is nutritional yeast flakes. This is optional. Again, you can get this in the supermarkets. What I love about nutritional yeast flakes is it gives a lovely tang to any dish. Sometimes we use it when we're making, say, a vegan mac and cheese to give a cheesy flavour. But it's also, again, rich in protein and rich in B vitamins. Often they will be fortified with B12, which is very important in a vegan diet. But the reason I use it is for the flavour. It has that lovely, savoury, cheesy flavour. So I've got a tablespoon which is going in as well. So you can get that in the supermarkets. It's pretty widely available now. Now we just want to give it a little bit more of a sweety tang. So I'm going to use a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And then for that sort of umami sort of flavour, soy sauce. Now I'm using gluten-free soy sauce, but any soy sauce is fine. But again, if you're celiac, this would be suitable for you. And then just a little bit of sweetness. I've got Sweet Freedom here, which is like a fruit syrup or maple syrup. Just about a teaspoon. You don't want very much. Now I'm going to add my jackfruit, which I've just drained. And I like to add just a little bit of fresh coriander. Again, really useful. If you've got those sort of packets of herbs lying around, this is really, really useful to just use these up. And then finally, for the sauce, what I've got is some sieved tomatoes. This is basically passata, which you can get in jars or packets, 250 mils or grams. And that will produce a really rich, flavoursome sauce. Now remember what I said, when you want to perhaps concentrate things or really develop the flavour, keep the lid off. So what I'm going to do now is put the lid back on, but I'm not going to put the lid on. I want to concentrate the flavour and really develop that flavour. And it will also slightly reduce the sauce down. So again, if you're making something and you think, gosh, I've put far too much liquid in there, just take the cap off, let it simmer away, and it will gradually reduce. This is a really good way of concentrating the flavours. So this time, I want to give it about 10 minutes, which will be time for me to show you how to make the flatbreads. And this is the great thing about the Cook Expert. You can get on with other things. You can just let it do its own thing. You can just go off and do other things. And remember that, say you're new to the Cook Expert and you're thinking, well, I'm not sure about the expert mode. It's got 13 set programs. So say you want to start by just making a soup. It's got soup settings for you. So you can get started. You get a book when you get your Cook Expert anyway with all the recipes in. And that's an easy way of just getting started. You can let it start cooking and then you can go off and do your own thing. So this time, what I want to do is I want it to stir, but I don't want it to chop everything up too finely. So I'm going to put it on the speed, which is 2A, which means it will stir and then stop and stir and then stop. It's really doing the job for you when you're standing over a pan and you have to stir it occasionally to stop anything sticking. This will do that for me. And then I want it to heat up and I want it to bubble away, so I'm going to take the temperature up to 110 degrees. We've got 10 minutes, we're going to put it on and it's going to do its own thing. That's how simple it is. That's the recipe, really. You can see how easy this is. And of course, you could vary the ingredients slightly. So you could add a bit of red pepper to that. You could add a chopped up carrot to that as well. So there's lots of little tweaks you can do according to what you've got in your fridge. But the flavours will really develop, giving it that time to stir and concentrate. While that's doing its thing, I'm very lucky I have got another Cook Expert here, but you can use obviously your same bowl to do the flatbreads. What I tend to do at home is make my flatbread first, griddle those while that's cooking. But let me show you how to do the flatbread. This is a non-yeasted bread. So honestly, it's minimum ingredients, minimum fuss. So I'm going to make it in the metal bowl. Now remember I said that it has various programs. So instead of the expert mode, what I'm actually going to do is take it to what we call the baking section. And under the baking section, there is one that says bread or brioche, and that's the one we're going to use. Very, very few ingredients here. I've got here 260 grams of self-raising flour. You could use gluten-free self-raising flour if you were gluten-free, so please don't worry. What I would say is if you are doing the gluten-free version, maybe add about 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. That's something that we often use in gluten-free baking just to help it bind a bit. And then I've got here coconut yogurt. We're making these vegan, so I've got 250 grams of coconut yogurt. I will often also add a teaspoon of baking powder, pinch of salt for a little bit of extra flavour. But that is it. That's all you're going to add. You could flavour it up a little bit more. So for example, sometimes I might add some herbs to this, maybe a little bit of crushed garlic. But we're going to flavour this anyway later, and I'll show you that. So we're going to just literally just select that bread brioche function, and we're going to let it do its own thing. So what it's now doing is blending that together for me to form a soft dough. It shouldn't be that wet. Now, one of the things I would say is that sometimes if your coconut yogurt is very, very firm, you might have to add just a little bit of water to it just to help it blend up. Again, I would tend to use coconut yogurt rather than something like soya yogurt. Soya yogurt tends to be a little bit runnier, and so you'll probably need slightly less. And again, the nice thing is I can see what's happening here because I've got my metal bowl. And after about a minute or so, what you will find is that the dough comes together. This is such a great recipe. I'll tell you what I also use this same recipe for, pizza base. So say you don't want to be bothered to do a yeasted pizza base, you could use this recipe and use it as a pizza base. I also use it sometimes to do sweet roll-ups. So a little bit like a sort of Danish pastry, you could use exactly the same recipe. You might add a little bit of sugar to it, and you can use it in exactly the same way. So let me show you these, because I want to show you just how it comes together. So can you see there that you've got this dough come together? All it is just the flour and the yogurt really. And what you should find is that it's slightly damp, won't be too damp, and you can just take this out. And what we're going to do now, and this is why you could actually make this ahead of time, to be honest, and then cook it when you're ready to serve. The only thing you really need to do now is we're going to divide this into 4. This is going to serve 4 people. I'm going to just put just a little bit of flour. I just happen to have gluten-free flour here. Just on the work surface. You won't really need very much because it won't be too sticky. And all you want to do is just bring it together with your hands. I tend to sort of roll it out. And then what I normally do is just cut it into 4 equal pieces. If you wanted to be really precise, you could weigh it out. But you just need to divide it into 4. And we're going to use these to make flatbreads. And I'll just show you one of these. I've made some that we've got earlier. Now, with the flatbread, you can make this ahead, just cover it, put it in the fridge, and then when you're ready to cook them, take them out, roll them out. I would tend to keep it in the fridge if I wasn't going to cook it straight away, just because it might start to dry out. Then you can either use your hands just to flatten, or just with a rolling pin. It's almost a bit like a sort of naan bread. We're just going to roll it out so that it forms a nice little oval shape. And then just with your hands, just neaten off the edges, like so. And then these are ready to cook. Now, in terms of how you cook these, what I tend to do is I have a griddle pan at home. I get the griddle pan really, really hot, and then I will just place these on the griddle pan for a couple of minutes either side until you get those lovely griddle marks, and then they puff up. Now, of course, I have made some that I've prepared earlier, so let me just go and get those. I've put a couple of them in the oven just to warm up, and I'll just bring those over while we're waiting for the jackfruit. But the other thing that I want to show you is we're going to then sort of brush these with a little bit of homemade vegan coriander garlic butter as well. And what's nice again is that the coriander butter we're going to make in the food processor, which of course you get with your Cook Expert as well. You can make this in bulk as well, which means that you can just have it in the fridge, ready to spread on anything or top it over rice or potatoes. So let me just quickly show you that before I show you the flatbreads. So we're going to use the food processor. With the food processor, you get the 3 bowls. We're going to just use the small bowl with the small blade. When you are thinking of maybe making your own dressings, sometimes even things like mayos and things like that, I tend to use let me just get this on properly. I tend to use the smaller bowl because it's much easier when you've only got small amounts of ingredients. Sometimes what you'll find is that if you're only using a small amount and you're trying to use the big bowl, it's not going to process up. That's the benefit of the small midi bowl. And really, very, very simple. I've got here fresh coriander leaves. I love that really strong flavour. And then now, of course, I'm not using butter. I'm using dairy-free spread. And I've got there as well, I want to add a little bit of garlic in that. Not everyone likes garlic, but I do. So there's a bit of garlic in there as well. Again, you could vary this, you could change the herbs around as well. Parsley's really good. And again, this is another really good way of using up things that you perhaps would just leave or throw away. Now, with the food processor, when you've got the food processor in place, it will automatically know that you've got a food processor. So the only thing you really need to do is just switch it on and it will start blending it up for you. Now sometimes if your butter is a little bit hard, you might need to use your spatula just to brush it down a bit, just so that it starts to mix. And again, you can freeze this as well. So sometimes what I'll tend to do is, if I have got quite a lot of herbs lying around or garlic lying around, I will just make up a whole batch of this and then store some of it in the freezer. You can put it in little ice cube trays as well. And then you can just take it out when you're ready. So I can see that's really lovely and done. So I'm just going to take this off. And the nice thing as well with using the small bowl, say you want to make mayo, and you can make vegan mayo quite easily actually. With the vegan mayo, what I tend to do is I use aquafaba. Now, you might wonder what on earth that is, but aquafaba is just the liquid from a can of chickpeas. That's all it is. And if you put some aquafaba into the small bowl with the blade, and then sometimes I might add some salt, some garlic, some herbs as well, chop that up, and then very gradually, with it running, just drizzle in some olive oil or rapeseed oil. And what it does is it emulsifies just like you would use an egg, and you've got vegan mayo. So very, very simple. I'm just going to take out the blade now. And then what I will do, you can hear that that has already bleeped. So that's ready. You can see the steam coming off. I will just move these out of the way and let me go and get my flatbreads, which are all ready and waiting for me. So I'm just going to go to the oven. And this is the great thing, you can warm these up. So again, if you wanted to get ahead, you could warm these up in the oven afterwards when you're ready to serve. And that's what I really like about using the Cook Expert, is that now this is ready, this will actually keep hot for a long period of time because of the induction and the metal bowl. So this is what's really nice. You can prepare things in advance, ready for you when you want to serve. So first of all, let me just show you the flatbread. So these I've griddled. They've warmed through in the oven. Oh my gosh, they smell amazing. And then all I'm just going to do is just show you. If you then just spread on, these are nice and warm, some of your wonderful garlic butter. I do like quite a lot. This just really adds to the flavour as well. And then of course this will keep in the fridge. You could use this over other dishes as well, or you could actually freeze it. So let me show you everything. So I'm going to just serve this up. Oh, that smells so nice. So I'm just going to get my bowl, and I want to just show you as well the jackfruit. This is wonderfully hot. The flavour is unbelievable. But I'm just going to bring this up first so you can see the jackfruit. So what it does is, because it was on a 2A, it was gradually stirring it for me and just breaking it up so it looks nice and shredded so that it's lovely and pulled. And so I'm just going to serve some of this in my bowl. Obviously this will serve about 4 people, so there is a reasonable amount here for lots of hungry people. You could serve it with rice if you didn't want to serve it with the flatbread. I'm just going to place my flatbread on there as well. Just a little bit of extra coriander on the top. Maybe serve it with a side salad as well. But there you have my fabulous pulled jackfruit with homemade flatbreads and a lovely coriander butter as well. So you can see how easy that was to make in the Cook Expert. I really hope you try this recipe. Let me know whether you try it. Show us some pictures on the Facebook page. Remember, the Facebook page is a great community for everyone. So if you're new to Cook Expert and you want a little bit of extra inspiration, join the Facebook page, get involved, share us your pictures and recipes, and would love to hear from you. So that's it from me. Thank you everyone for joining me, and I hope to see you all soon.